I'm John. Before we get started, I want to tell you why this channel exists. I've been in 2 relationships, 26 years combined, with 2 women who both hurt me badly. One whose narcissism was loud and impossible to miss. One whose was so quiet it took me years to even see what was happening. I didn't have the words for any of it while I was living through it. This series is built mainly for men over 40 who are living with or have lived through a relationship with a narcissist. Though if any of this sounds familiar to you, whoever you are, you're welcome here too. This series is me handing you the words I wish someone had given me sooner. If anything in today's episode sounds familiar, you're not imagining it, and you're not alone.
I don't know why you're making this a thing.
You've probably heard people throw around 2 words, narcissist and codependent, about an ex, a boss, even themselves. Before we go further, let's be clear on what we actually mean by narcissistic abuse, since that's what this whole channel is about. It isn't just my ex has a big ego, it's a pattern, making you doubt what you know actually happened, pulling you back in with warmth right after being cold or cruel, brushing off how you feel like it doesn't matter, needing to control almost everything. That's the lived experience behind the label. Now, here's the part most people don't realize about the 2 words we use to describe the people involved. Only one of narcissist and codependent is an actual medical diagnosis. The other one isn't in any medical textbook at all, and if you can't tell which is which, it's easy to confuse this is a real psychological condition with this is just a pattern I can work on. So let's clear that up. What's genuinely clinical, what's just become popular language, and what that means for the episodes ahead on this channel. Let's start with narcissism, because chances are you've used that word about someone without really knowing what it means. Truth is, most people who get called a narcissist aren't clinical at all. They've just got a bit of an ego. They need a lot of praise. They're not great at putting themselves in your shoes. That's a trait, not a diagnosis, and it describes a lot of people you'll meet. Then there's the real thing, Narcissistic Personality Disorder, NPD for short. And this is where it gets interesting, because it doesn't look how you'd expect. Yes, there's the loud version everyone pictures, confident, entitled, always needs to be the center of the room. But there's also a completely different version hiding under the same diagnosis, someone quiet, who seems insecure, who bruises if you look at them wrong, who gets defensive over nothing. Same disorder. Almost the opposite performance. So if you've ever said, my ex was arrogant and full of herself, and a friend said, mine was the total opposite, so insecure, you could both have been describing NPD. We're going to spend real time on both versions in this series, because most people only ever learn to spot one of them. Now the word everyone reaches for next, codependency. In plain terms, it means losing yourself in someone else's needs, your own self-worth riding on their approval, real trouble saying no, always being the one who fixes things and takes care of everyone, a deep fear that they'll leave if you stop. Here's a surprise, though. It's not a diagnosis. It actually started in addiction treatment, describing the partners of alcoholics, and it's since turned into shorthand for that same pattern. That's real. The damage it does is real. There just isn't a textbook entry called codependency. So what's actually going on underneath the label? Usually it's what's called an anxious attachment style. Basically, a fear of losing connection that runs so deep it quietly steers the whole relationship. In the more extreme, rigid cases, it can tip into something that is a genuine diagnosis, dependent personality disorder. So when I say codependent on this channel, I mean the pattern, not a disorder, but I want you to know there's real psychology behind it, not just a buzzword. And here's the part that surprises people most. Codependency shows up in men just as often as it does in women. It just gets missed because most people have been trained to expect it in a woman, not a man. And if you recognize some of that in yourself, I want to be clear, that doesn't mean you caused what happened to you. It just means your own attachment patterns are part of the full picture, alongside the real harm that was actually done to you. Here's the shape of what's coming on this channel. We're going to work through the patterns that actually show up in relationships, narcissism in both its loud and quiet forms, borderline personality disorder, the attachment styles that pull certain people together, and manipulation tactics that have real names, even though most people have lived through them without ever hearing those names. Every episode comes from the same angle, the man in the relationship, the one living with it, not the stereotype of the man causing it. I was in 2 long relationships, 13 years each, with 2 women who hurt me in very different ways. One where it was loud and obvious, one where it took me years to even see clearly. Next up are the 2 episodes where I tell that story properly, before we go topic by topic. And if you're a woman watching this, please stay. This isn't about which gender is which. There's something here for you to recognize in yourself too, in every single episode. Before you go, here's something practical you can use today, not just theory. Ask yourself 2 questions about the person you're thinking of. First, does this show up almost everywhere, in nearly every relationship they have, with family, with friends, at work, not just with you? Second, has it been steady for years, not just during one rough patch? If the answer to both is yes, you're likely looking at something clinical, a genuine, ingrained pattern that won't be reasoned away in one honest conversation, and your job becomes protecting yourself and managing the relationship wisely, not fixing the person. If the answer to either one is no, you're probably looking at a trait or a hard season, and there's more real room for things to change, especially with honest conversation. This one test won't diagnose anyone, but it tells you where to focus your energy first, and that's exactly what the rest of this series is going to help you do, episode by episode. Before you go, a word, thinking back to that opening scene. If you're the one on the receiving end of moments like that, this channel is for you. If you recognized yourself as the one saying it, that's worth sitting with too, honestly and without shame. Recognizing a pattern is the first step, whichever side of it you're on. Nobody watching this is broken. You're just finally getting the words for something you've already been living. Next time, I'll tell you that story properly, both relationships, 13 years each, and what they actually cost me. It wasn't easy to live through, and it isn't easy to say out loud either. If you want to hear it, hit subscribe. I'll see you there.